When a man treats a woman exactly the way she says she wants, he runs into a harsh truth. Her words don't reveal what actually moves her. The treatment she describes sounds good, looks good, feels socially perfect, but it isn't what ignites desire. It isn't what makes her eyes shift, her body lean in, or her mind lock onto you. And this is where most men get lost. They follow what women say instead of understanding what their instincts actually respond to. Because what a woman verbally prefers and what her body reacts to are two very different things. And the space between those two is where attraction is born or dies. Modern men carry a silent struggle. They try to be overly kind, overly available, overly understanding. They believe that if they become the perfect partner, the man who never disappoints, never upsets, never confronts, they will finally be chosen. But this performance destroys the very attraction they're trying to build. He becomes useful, but not necessary. Sweet, but not desired. Comfortable, but not irresistible. And deep down, he feels it. The more perfect he tries to be, the more invisible he becomes. Evolutionary psychology has shown this for years. Women were shaped by millions of years of instinct, not modern social scripts. Across cultures, they're drawn to direction, ambition, confidence, emotional stability, and a hint of unpredictability. Kindness without strength doesn't create desire. It only creates convenience. Women don't want a perfect man. They want a centered man. And centered does not mean submissive. Many women, though they will never say it openly, feel safest and most attracted inside a masculine structure that is firm, selective, and non-negotiable. They don't want a man who molds himself to them. They want a man who shapes himself to his own standards. The man who tries to please loses. The man who establishes emotional territory wins. And that's what this video reveals. The real treatment that sparks feminine desire. Not aggression, not domination, not coldness, something deeper. The ability to stay solid and grounded while offering selective warmth. Most men are afraid of this. Afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of losing, afraid of seeming harsh. But the real danger isn't in being firm, it's in never being firm at all. Because the treatment that attracts her never begins with her, it begins with you. Most men never realize they are fighting a war they cannot see. A war between what a woman says she wants and what her instincts actually respond to. This conflict is quiet, it is subtle, and it destroys attraction long before a man even understands what happened. A woman might ask for softness, endless patience, constant reassurance. But her mind and body awaken to something very different. And the man who doesn't understand this spends years confused, frustrated, and invisible. He tries to do everything right. He listens carefully. He gives affection without limits. He shows up every time she calls. He becomes the man who never disappoints, never questions, never challenges. But the more he tries to be perfect, the faster desire slips out of his hands. Because perfection, when it is rooted in fear, does not pull her closer, it pushes her away. She senses the performance. She senses the neediness behind the smile. She senses a man who is trying to earn a place instead of standing firmly in his own. And women, even the kindest ones, do not respond to a man who is trying to be chosen. They respond to a man who chooses himself first. This is the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. A woman's attraction is not activated by agreement, compliance, or constant sweetness. It is activated by identity, by the presence of a man who is centered, steady, and slightly unpredictable. Not chaotic, not aggressive. Simply a man who lives by his own internal rules instead of bending to hers. A man who can be warm, but not weak. A man who can listen, but not abandon his standards. For thousands of years, women survived by sensing which men carried real inner strength. Not loud strength, not aggressive strength, but the calm, grounded presence that says, "I know who I am with or without you." This presence pulls her in long before she can explain why. But modern men have been trained to do the opposite. They have been trained to overgive, to over-explain, to soften every edge, and to present a version of themselves that is safe but not compelling. And inside, they feel it. The more they give, the less they receive. The more available they become, the faster she loses excitement. The more they try to please, the more they disappear. Attraction is not created by perfection. Attraction is created by polarity, the natural tension between a man's grounded presence and a woman's emotional responsiveness. And until a man understands this hidden tension, he will keep repeating the same painful pattern, giving too much, receiving too little, and wondering why the woman he wants feels nothing beyond comfort. What she responds to isn't compliance, it's masculine clarity, and that clarity begins with one shift. Stop performing for her approval and start acting from your own center. Because attraction does not start with her reactions, it starts with your identity. There is a moment in every man's life when he makes a fatal mistake without even noticing, a moment when he gives a woman a place in his world that she has not earned. It starts small, a little extra attention, a little extra availability, a little extra hope that maybe this time she will choose him. But slowly, quietly, he begins treating her like a priority, while she treats him like an option. And in that exact moment, his value collapses. Because a woman can feel when a man puts himself below her. She feels it in the way he talks, the way he waits for her replies, the way he adjusts his entire day just to fit her schedule. She feels it in the excitement he cannot hide. She feels it in the eagerness that tries to pull her closer but ends up pushing her away. It is not evil, it is not intentional, it is simply instinct. And instinct does not negotiate. When a man gives too much too soon, she does not think, "What a generous man." She thinks, "Why does he need me that badly?" And neediness kills desire faster than any wrong move a man could ever make. This is the misunderstanding that ruins countless connections. Men think affection creates attraction. But women feel attraction only when a man's affection is selective, when it must be earned, when it is not available for free. Unlimited giving does not make her love you. It makes her doubt your value. Because real value is never desperate. Real value is never in a hurry. Real value never begs to be seen. Throughout history, women had to measure which men could truly protect, provide, and lead. Not through money, not through power, but through presence. A man with strong presence gives from a place of abundance, not emptiness. He offers attention, but he does not sacrifice his self-respect to do it. He invests, but only when he receives investment back. He gives warmth, but only when he sees reciprocity. This is why the girlfriend treatment destroys attraction when given too early. You give her something she has not earned yet. You elevate her to a place she has not stepped into. And now the dynamic is broken, because she feels the imbalance before you do. Attraction only grows in a system where value is mirrored, not donated. A man who treats a casual woman like a queen becomes an accessory, not a choice. And once she sees him as an accessory, the emotional hierarchy becomes impossible to repair. She loses curiosity, she loses respect, she loses the instinct to pursue him. And all he wanted was to show her his heart. But a woman cannot treasure a heart that is handed over too quickly. The path forward is simple, but not easy. A man must give attention based on reciprocity, not fantasy. He must match her energy, not exceed it. He must observe her actions, not her words. If she invests little, he invests little. If she invests more, he meets her there. If she plays games, he steps back. If she shows respect, he opens up. This is not manipulation, it is emotional balance. A man does not lose women because he is kind. He loses them because he is kind without criteria. When your kindness has no boundaries, it feels like insecurity. When your giving has no limits, it feels like fear. When your patience has no end, it feels like you have nothing else going on in your life. And a woman can only desire a man whose life is larger than her presence in it. A man who understands this never begs for interest again. He becomes the type of man who does not chase approval. He creates gravity, a presence that pulls her in naturally, without effort, without performing, without losing himself. Because the moment you stop offering value to someone who does not return it, you regain something far more important. There is a truth about attraction that most men never learn. A woman does not lose interest because a man isn't nice enough. She loses interest because he has no edges. A man without boundaries feels predictable, soft, and emotionally weightless. He becomes a safe option, but never a compelling one. And women do not fall for what is safe. They fall for what is stable with strength, warm with structure, kind with limits. The modern man believes the secret to winning a woman's heart is giving more affection, more attention, more patience. He believes that if he becomes the one man who never gets upset, never says no, never disagrees, he will become unforgettable. But he becomes forgettable instead. Because without boundaries, his kindness looks like weakness. His understanding looks like need. His availability feels like self-abandonment. Women do not consciously realize this. They may even tell you they want a man who is endlessly sweet and endlessly supportive. But when they meet that man, they feel nothing. Why? Because attraction needs contrast. It needs polarity. It needs a man who can be warm, but can also take a stand when something crosses his line. A calm no is often more attractive than a desperate yes. And here is the psychology behind it. Boundaries signal inner strength. Strength signals safety. Safety signals desirability. A man with boundaries tells the world, and the woman, that he respects himself enough to protect his energy. And a woman cannot respect, follow, or desire a man who does not respect himself first. Think about it. When a man accepts lateness, disrespect, excuses, or emotional games without speaking up, what message does he send? He says, "My standards are negotiable." But when a man stays calm, steady, and direct, without anger, without drama, he shows something far more powerful. I know my value. This is the kind of masculine firmness that women feel deeply, even if they never admit it. It is not dominance. It is not control. It is emotional leadership, the ability to guide a dynamic through clarity, not chaos. When you speak up with a stable tone, you activate a part of her instinct that says, "This man is grounded. This man won't break. This man can hold his position even when tested." And yes, women test, not to destroy you, but to feel the truth of who you are. The man without boundaries fails every test. The man with anger fails too, because anger is another form of losing control. But the man who can stay calm, steady, and firm, he passes every test without even knowing he is taking one. This is why emotional neutrality is so magnetic. The stable gaze, the relaxed posture, the controlled voice. It signals a man who cannot be moved by pressure. And that calm presence becomes more attractive than anything he could say or do. A woman respects a man who can empathize, but she desires a man who can empathize without abandoning himself. She feels safe with a man who listens, but she feels drawn to the man who listens and still holds his line. She admires a man who is kind, but she invests in the man whose kindness has structure. Because structure creates tension, tension creates attraction, and attraction creates investment. This is why trying to be endlessly available never works. You do not get chosen by removing all conflict. You get chosen by creating emotional clarity. A woman cannot desire a man who is afraid of saying no, but she will lean in every time toward the man whose boundaries speak louder than his fear of losing her. The truth is simple. A man's value is not shown through how much he gives, but through how well he protects the parts of himself he refuses to give away for free. There is a kind of man whose presence instantly changes the energy in a room. He doesn't speak loudly, he doesn't push for attention, he doesn't try to prove himself. Yet people feel something around him, a quiet authority, a grounded confidence, a calm dominance that makes others adjust their behavior without him asking. Women, especially, are deeply sensitive to this presence. And here's the paradox. Most men try to attract women with charm, humor, or constant positivity. But the men women find most attractive are the ones who carry emotional stability. A calm man is more desirable than a happy man. A grounded man is more desirable than an excited man. A steady man is more desirable than a man who reacts to everything. Studies show that women rate men with a neutral, confident expression as more attractive than men who smile too much. Why? Because a serious, steady expression signals certainty, focus, and self-trust. It says, "I am present. I am not seeking approval. I am not here to perform." And this is exactly the type of energy that activates feminine instinct. Most men smile constantly because they fear being misunderstood. They fear looking rude, distant, or unapproachable. But the truth is simple. When your face is always softened, your presence becomes softened too. A woman cannot feel tension with a man who dissolves it every time he tries to look friendly. Calm dominance is not about being cold, it is about being in control of your reactions. No raised voice, no over-explaining, no emotional begging, no impatient responses, because the moment you lose control, you lose value. When a woman tests you, with attitude, with inconsistency, with emotional swings, she is not looking for a fight. She is looking for stability. She wants to feel whether you are the kind of man who breaks under pressure or the kind of man who stays centered even when the situation gets uncomfortable. If you explode, she loses trust. If you submit, she loses respect. But if you stay calm, she feels both trust and attraction rising in the same moment. The man who can hold his frame in uncomfortable situations becomes unforgettable. His silence has weight. His decisions carry authority. His presence speaks louder than his words. And here's what most men don't understand. Women are not attracted to a man who avoids conflict. They are attracted to a man who can walk through conflict without losing himself. It's not the confrontation that matters, it's the control. A controlled tone, a controlled reaction, a controlled message. When she exaggerates, you don't dive into the drama. When she provokes, you don't defend endlessly. When she demands answers, you don't rush to prove yourself. You respond from clarity, not emotion. Simple phrases carry massive power. Let's slow down. That doesn't work for me. We can talk when things are calm. I'm not going to argue. These short lines communicate more strength than shouting ever could. They show that you refuse to be manipulated, pushed, or pulled into emotional chaos. And nothing is more attractive to a woman than a man who stays grounded when she cannot. Calm dominance is not about control over her, it's control over yourself. And that self-control creates a deep sense of safety that she feels instinctively. Not safety from danger, safety from emotional instability, safety to be feminine, safety to relax, safety to trust your direction, because a woman cannot feel desire for a man she doubts. But she will always feel desire for a man whose inner world stays steady no matter what storms happen outside. Real masculine power is quiet. It is stable. It is unshakable. And once a man masters this, he no longer competes for attention. He becomes the gravity that attention moves toward. There is a mistake men make that feels noble on the surface, but destroys attraction at the core. They try to be endlessly understanding. They listen to every problem, comfort every mood, absorb every emotional wave, long before they have earned a meaningful place in her life. In trying to be her safe space, they become her therapist instead of her man. And nothing kills desire faster than a man who becomes an emotional cushion instead of a masculine presence. The truth is simple. Kindness without boundaries feels like pressure. Support without strength feels like weakness. Warmth without edges feels like neediness. Women do not lose interest because a man is caring. They lose interest because he cares without conditions. There must be two territories, the space where you show empathy and the space where you enforce your limits. When a man mixes these two, the magnetism disappears. A woman needs to feel your warmth, but she also needs to feel your edges. That contrast is what creates tension, and tension is what creates desire. Social psychology has exposed a paradox. Women say they want a sensitive man, but they feel deeper attraction toward men who blend sensitivity with strength. It is not emotional softness they want, it is emotional depth. Not a man who bends to every feeling, but a man who can hold his ground while still understanding hers. This is the energy of calm dominance, warmth delivered from a firm center. Imagine a man who listens to her feelings but refuses to lose himself inside them. He validates her emotions, but he does not abandon his decisions. He stays present, but he does not dissolve. That man becomes unforgettable because he gives her something rare, emotional clarity without emotional collapse. When she tests you, when she exaggerates, when she pushes limits, the weak man argues. The insecure man begs. The lost man apologizes for things he did not do. But the grounded man? He uses short, decisive lines that speak for his value. I don't stay where there's disrespect. If this continues, I'm stepping back. We'll talk when things calm down. That's not for me. These sentences are not threats. They are boundaries. And boundaries create a feeling she will never confess openly. Respect mixed with desire. Women feel safest with a man who cannot be manipulated, not because he is cold, but because he refuses to trade his dignity for her approval. When you do this, her instinct recognizes something ancient. This man can lead. This man can protect. This man does not break. A woman's attraction grows when she feels that your warmth is real, but your limits are real too. Too much warmth creates comfort, not desire. Too many edges create fear, not connection. But warmth with edges creates a balance that draws her in again and again. This is why the man who is too understanding always loses. He thinks he's being noble, but he is giving her something she has not earned: complete emotional access. And when access is free, it loses value. The selective man, the man who knows when to give and when to withhold, becomes unforgettable. She knows she cannot take advantage of him. She knows he is good, but not soft. She knows he is accessible, but not controllable. And this creates a unique psychological tension. She wants to be close, but she also wants to rise to meet his standards. A woman invests in a man whose presence challenges her just enough to keep her awake. The man who is calm, steady, warm, but unshakable. The man who can embrace her one moment and hold a boundary the next. The man who can feel empathy without losing structure. Warmth attracts, edges protect. But warmth with edges, that is what builds desire that lasts. There is a painful truth that almost every man learns too late. The moment you place a woman above your own life, she begins to lose interest. Not because she is unkind, not because she is selfish, but because your self-abandonment destroys the very energy that could have attracted her. A man who idolizes a woman becomes predictable, easy, and emotionally replaceable. A man who values himself first becomes intriguing. Most men grow up believing love means devotion, sacrifice, and making her your entire world. But when you do that too soon, she feels the weight of your need. She feels the pressure of being your only source of fulfillment. And she instinctively retreats. Because a woman cannot desire a man who depends on her for his sense of worth. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. A woman is drawn to a man whose life is already in motion, not to a man who pauses his life hoping she will choose him. Men who idolize women lose power in subtle ways. They wait for her messages, they cancel plans for her, they shape their schedule around her, they give emotional energy to someone who has not earned it, and in doing so, they stop being a man she wants to discover, and become a man who waits to be approved. Attraction does not grow from admiration, it grows from evaluation. A man must look at a woman and ask himself, does she respect my boundaries? Does she improve my energy? If I had multiple options, would I choose her again? These questions shift a man's position instantly. Instead of hoping to be chosen, he begins to choose. Instead of performing for her approval, he begins observing hers. And this psychological repositioning transforms his presence. His words change, his tone changes, his decisions become sharp. His emotional world becomes stable. And women can feel this shift long before he speaks it. Because a man who chooses himself radiates value without trying. Women are instinctively attracted to men who are desired by others, respected by peers, connected to their purpose, and immersed in a life that does not revolve around them. This isn't manipulation, it's biology. Social proof signals value. A man with motion, goals, direction, and ambition sends a clear message. My life is moving. If you join me, it's because you belong, not because I am empty. The opposite destroys attraction instantly. When you stop everything for her, skip your goals for her, abandon your routine for her, she does not see romance. She sees dependence, and dependence suffocates desire. A woman does not want to be your world, she wants to enter a world that is worth entering. This is why the most attractive men keep their life intact no matter who enters or leaves. They train, they work, they pursue their vision, they protect their time, they honor their commitments, they stay in motion. And this motion creates a gravitational pull that makes women lean in rather than drift away. It is never about being unavailable, it is about having selective availability. You are present, but not at the cost of your purpose. You are interested, but not surrendered. You are open, but not dependent. This balance creates the psychological tension that fuels desire. She sees a man who values her, but values himself more. A man who is capable of loving deeply, but incapable of losing himself in the process. A man who welcomes her, but does not need her to breathe. And this transforms the entire dynamic. A man who selects himself first becomes the man she selects without hesitation. Not because he chases her, but because he aligns with his own value so strongly that she feels drawn to step into his world. There comes a point in every man's journey where he must stop asking, "Does she like me?" and start asking, "Do I choose her?" This is the shift that separates men who chase from men who attract. Because a man who knows his value never begs for attention, he filters it. He doesn't try to convince a woman to stay, he simply observes whether she belongs in the world he is building. And women feel this difference instantly. The strongest men are not the ones who dominate others, they are the ones who govern themselves. Women are naturally drawn to a man who lives by a standard, not by his impulses, not by her moods, not by temporary emotions. A man who wakes up with purpose, moves with intention, and stands firm in the boundaries he created for his own life. This type of man does not depend on her investment to feel valuable. He brings value with him. This is where the axis of male choice comes in, the simple framework that destroys illusion and builds clarity. Question 1. Does she respect my boundaries? A woman may be beautiful, sweet, exciting, or intelligent, but if she does not respect your time, your effort, your standards, or your emotional space, the connection is already broken. Respect is the foundation of attraction. Without it, interest becomes irritation, and desire becomes distance. Question 2. Does she improve or drain my energy? Most men ignore this because they want the fantasy more than the truth. But the reality is simple. A woman who brings peace will elevate your life. A woman who brings chaos will consume it. You do not build a future with someone who constantly destabilizes your present. Your energy is your currency. Protect it. Question 3. If I had real options, would I choose her again? Not based on loneliness, not based on attachment, not based on fear of losing her, but based on who she truly is, her character, her habits, her respect, her alignment with your values. If the answer is no, then the only reason you are staying is fear. And fear is the birthplace of weak decisions. A man who asks these questions gains a power most men never touch, the power to see women clearly. He stops falling for behavior that feels good in the moment but destroys him slowly. He stops giving loyalty to someone who treats him like an option. He stops building a future on unstable ground. And this clarity alone changes his entire presence. Because when a man values himself, women feel it. When a man filters, women pursue. When a man chooses carefully, women want to be chosen by him. This is instinct, ancient, biological, undeniable. A man who knows his worth becomes rare. A man who protects his peace becomes magnetic. A man who leads with direction becomes unforgettable. And this is the turning point. When you start treating yourself like a man of value, women begin treating you like one. Not because you demand it, but because you embody it. Your posture changes, your voice steadies, your decisions sharpen. You begin acting from intention instead of insecurity. You stop chasing moments and start creating standards. A high-value man does not ask, "What should I do to make her stay?" He asks, "Does she deserve the version of me that I bring to the world?" This is what separates the man who tries to be chosen from the man who becomes the choice. Because at the end of the day, attraction is not built by performance, it is built by alignment. Alignment with your identity, alignment with your boundaries, alignment with your purpose. When you act like a man who carries value, you stop trying to win women, and women start trying to win you. If everything you heard in this video shook something inside you, that's not an accident. Most men will hear these truths and ignore them. They will go back to pleasing, back to chasing, back to shrinking themselves for women who never respected them in the first place. But you don't have to repeat their story. For the next 7 days, ask yourself one simple question before every decision. What would a high-value man do right now? Not the emotional man, not the desperate man, not the man who hopes to be chosen, but the man who chooses himself first. This one question will rewire your posture, your tone, your standards, your presence. It will pull you out of neediness and into power. It will make you the man women feel, not the man they forget. And if you want to go deeper, if you want the full blueprint of boundaries, emotional control, attraction psychology, and feminine behavior, then the next step is waiting for you. Inside the seduction code, you'll learn how to read female tests instantly, how to hold your frame no matter what she does, how to communicate value without saying too much, how to create tension that women lean into, how to build a masculine presence that is calm, firm, and irresistible, how to stop chasing and start attracting from identity, not effort. These aren't tricks, these aren't lines. These are psychological structures that shift how women respond to you automatically. If you're ready to stop living like a backup plan, if you're ready to stop begging for attention, if you're ready to step into the version of yourself that women chase without you trying, then the link to the seduction code is in the description and the pinned comment. Become the man who leads, become the man who chooses, become the man women feel drawn to, instinctively and irresistibly. Choose yourself first, everything else will follow.